Do you ever hold back from saying what's on your mind in order to keep the peace? Or are you afraid to express your emotions or to ask for what you need? And how many times have you swallowed the truth and it's still stuck in your throat? And if you struggle to express yourself authentically, you feel like you're performing and you're pretending. And all of this peacekeeping is actually you abandoning yourself. So if any of this rang true from you, then you are in the right place. And it's a good indication that you possibly have a blocked or imbalanced throat chakra. But don't worry, that's okay, because that can happen to anybody, and there's plenty of ways that we can bring that back into balance. And my name is Angela, and this is an intro video to the throat chakra. And this is great for anybody who is new to the chakra system. However, if you are a little more seasoned and knowledgeable in this area, you're also invited to stay, because it might still resonate. You might still learn something or gain a new perspective. So I'm just going to start off with the basics. The throat chakra is known in Sanskrit as Viśuddha. Viśuddha. And the meaning is purification. The location of this is in the throat, and it is associated with our throat, our neck, our thyroid, the parathyroid, our vocal cords, our jaw, our mouth, our tongue, and our shoulders. The frequency of this chakra is 741 hertz, and the seed sound is hum. 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 It's like H-A-M. And the mudra to go along with the mantra is where we take our fingers and we interlock them. And then we take the index fingers and the thumbs and we connect them like that. So they create a little circle. And you can hold this here in front of the throat. And what this does is this connects specific meridians. And when we do the chanting, this brings us into alignment with this frequency. What this chakra governs is our expression, our communication, our authenticity, and our ability to express our needs openly and honestly and in a higher vibration. So doing so with compassion, using words with love and respect. And that is on the balanced end of this chakra. And just having the confidence to speak and express your boundaries, your truth, and doing so in a way that honors you and honors the other person, because it is where we are in our higher selves and we're connected to each other. And we realize that words can be medicine, but words can also be weapons, that we choose the higher end of the spectrum. And it's also about artistic expression. So not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, like living in your truth, living in accordance with your purpose and what is really meant for you, not what's projected onto you by family, by society, by whatever means come to you, but you really embodying who you are in this world and what makes you feel alive. And there's a quote, I can't really remember it right now, but it's like, your purpose isn't what you do, it's what happens to others when you do what you do. And that's because this passion and this truth shines through you when you are living in that embodiment and that full authentic expression of yourself. Okay, you can be living the truth and speaking the truth. So it's like to be in this full authentic expression of who you are. It's where the inner truth matches the outer truth. So you could be like in alignment with yourself, but if you're working a job, say like you are a vegetarian but working in a meat factory, that is like out of alignment, you know? So it's really when you come into that whole balance and everything is in alignment. And imbalance, let's just touch on that now. So there's like overactive, there's blocked, and then there's underactive. So underactive is when you have a fear of speaking up, or you have trouble expressing yourself, expressing your needs, asking for what you need. It can look like feeling unheard, or you often experience miscommunication, and then there's problems that arise from it because there's lack of clarity or lack of transparency, and that's from miscommunication. And it can also appear as secrecy, lying, manipulation, using hurtful words. Like I mentioned, words as weapons is an imbalanced way to express yourself. And if you're like preachy or bossy, or telling other people what to do, or maybe you're overly opinionated and you just tell everybody what you think even though nobody asked for it, and like being very loud and aggressive. And it's two-way communication. It's not just speaking, it's also receiving. So you have trouble listening. You listen to react, you don't listen to comprehend or to hear, and you don't listen openly. Perhaps you get defensive because you don't like what the other person's saying, so you can't receive it. It can also look like manipulation, deceit, gaslighting, lying, projecting. And so these are all different examples of an imbalance. And I kind of blurred these, but some of those were overactive. But you can also have physical symptoms that are associated with a blocked throat chakra. You can have constant throat issues, like chronic ailments like strep throat. You can get tight throats, a scratchy throat. You know how you get like a frog in your throat and you can't speak because everything closes up? That's a throat a blockage. If you have trouble singing as well, if you get thyroid issues frequently, overactive, underactive thyroid, and just feeling like whatever you say is not going to make a difference, that is also a sign of an imbalance. And coming into your truth and nourishing this chakra is when you come into this truth of like who you are and having the clarity and the purpose of what it is you're supposed to do, and like your worth, and being able to express that in a loving, open, and magnetic, authentic way is when we can really embody the full integrity of this chakra. And there's ways to nourish it. So those were all signs of imbalance, and there's probably more. I don't know what I even said right now, but there's plenty of things you can do to strengthen your throat chakra. So because it's associated with sound, anything that has that resonance, so sound healing, attuning to the frequency of 741, or sound bowls, or sound notes G specifically. You can sing. Singing is actually a very great way to strengthen the vocal cords, to strengthen the throat chakra. And especially if you sing like songs that have beautiful meanings, or are expressing love and gratitude to Pachamama or to the divine or just to yourself. Those are beautiful, beautiful ways to activate your throat chakra. Humming is also a very good practice if you're not quite comfortable with singing. Humming is a really good way. It still activates the vocal cords and any sort of expression. So journaling, expressing your truth in a written form is also beneficial. As I mentioned, it doesn't have to be all vocal. Like there's other ways to communicate. And actually, I think 80% of communication is nonverbal. So it's not always that. One thing you could do is, if you have trouble expressing your truth and asking for it, you can always act, pretend you're the version of yourself that you want to be, and like how would they be, and start to embody that, because the more that you embody that and get into that energy and that mindset, the faster you're going to arrive there in the present moment. Another thing that is very empowering is just having open and honest conversations. Yes, those are often very difficult and uncomfortable, but that's where the magic happens. That's where, the vulnerability comes out, and that's when the truth is revealed. And sometimes we're afraid. We don't want to know the truth because deep down we're afraid of getting hurt. But the truth is what sets you free. Because once you have that truth, then it can bring you clarity. And then you can make a better and more informed decision that puts you in alignment with your truth. So, I used to be afraid to know the truth, but trust me, it's so much better just to have that clarity and have that peace of mind. And when you do have the truth, or at least your own truth, you can set healthy boundaries. And it doesn't have to be aggressive. You can set boundaries in a very loving and compassionate way where, you're just respecting yourself and coming from a place of truth and honesty and expecting the other person to appreciate and respect them. If they don't respect your boundaries, then that's very concerning. Also practice active listening. As I mentioned, if you have an imbalanced or blocked, you don't want to hear, or you're not really listening. It's all maybe you're listening because you're waiting to respond or to react, right? But actually listening to receive what this person is saying. And active listening is even more, more attuned. You're taking what they're saying and you're repeating it back to them to allow them to know that you're actively listening and keeping track and paying attention to the words that they're saying. And it makes people feel heard. So you want to give what you want to receive, right? If you want to feel heard, you have to also be listening to other people. And you can use affirmations. I always like to align my affirmations with the action of the chakra. So this is all about communication, expression. So, I express my truth in a loving and honest way. I listen to others' opinions and I respond in a compassionate manner. I speak my truth, even if my voice shakes. When I live my most authentic life, everything vibrates and I am a manifesting magnet. Now, whatever affirmations you want to say, but that was just a few examples off the top of my head. And other things that can help nourish or feed your throat chakra is good oral hygiene. Since it's all connected to the mouth and the throat, gargling with salt water is very purifying, and this is about purification. So that's a really good thing to do if you have a throat ailment, right? Gargle with salt water. Or oil of oregano is also a good one that I didn't mention. And doing a coconut oil pulling, because that actually it's antibacterial, and what it does is it gets in all those little crevices, just swish it around in your mouth, and then you spit it out, not into the toilet or something, do it into something so it hardens. But it's a really good practice, and it's really been proven to help improve the gums and just the cleanliness of the teeth. So that's also something. And as I mentioned, let's just switch to fluoride-free everything. I will not drink water if it's fluoridated because it calcifies the pineal gland, and that is our vision and our connection to source, right? And so as we get into the higher chakras, we want to get even more connected, but you don't want to be doing anything that's blocking us whatsoever. So fluoride-free toothpaste, fluoride-free water, or non-fluoridated water, and mouthwash as well. There's also foods you can eat. So foods that have the resonance of the indigo color, or blue, actually, this is blue. So blue, by the way, is actually the hardest color to find in nature. There's not a lot of pure blue foods, but there are some. So blueberries, for example, are blue foods, and then there's blackberries, which are kind of like a black blue. There's Canacord grapes, and then grape juice for that matter, blue spirulina, butterfly pea flower, and also lemon and honey tea or lemonade, because that's very soothing for the throat. And coconut water. Oh, I love coconut water. Coconut is so good. Oh yes, this is sound. So sound baths, sound healing, humming, all of those things. And flutes are actually one of the instruments, wind instruments, you know, spirit flutes. And like I said, anything kind of musical, that is great. And dance is also, I think, an expression of your truth. It's a higher form of communication, especially when it's between two people. You just have this like connection and you're speaking a language beyond words. It's so beautiful. So those are some of the ways that I believe you can nourish the chakra. There's also more, but that's what I can think of off the top of my head. Believe it or not, my throat chakra was one of my most blocked chakras my entire life. I actually believe that I inherited a block from my father, who was very blocked. And my father actually, like 9 years ago, had stage 4 cancer, and it was right here in his throat chakra, and it was very aggressive, and we managed to get rid of it. I share a little bit more about this in my books, but yeah, then he was living down in Mexico, but I believe that it actually happened because, you know, I had another stepmother, and my dad just had a history of finding women who were very controlling and dominating, and he didn't know how to express himself. And so, you know, he would resort to reacting in a blocked or imbalanced way. And over the years, this manifested, and it, in my opinion, was the throat chakra, because there's like no other reason for it. But he had such a block, and then he actually recovered fully from the stage 4 cancer, thankfully. We all kind of teamed up, and I believe it was the power of love and his own like human will and desire to live that saved him. But it manifested again, and he was very sick, and he actually passed away recently. But it came back, and he couldn't speak, and he couldn't hear, and it was, everything was happening to him right here. Like, he had part of his ear chopped off. He also had skin cancer, which was also very aggressive. I believe he had parasites as well, which like added to everything. But everything was super aggressive. And so he had like skin grafts and everything, but he couldn't even eat at the end. Like, he had to be fed through a gastronomy tube because his throat was so bad. And in the end, he started kind of working through that and healing that. That was some of the work that I did with him. But anyways, I inherited that initially early in my life, and I was so blocked. And it's funny because nobody would ever think I was blocked, because I like very outgoing and friendly, and I modeled. And so I'd be very comfortable in front of the camera, but put me in front of a video camera and I would be like all awkward and like weird, and I hated it. I shifted my perspective because during COVID I had to start doing classes over Zoom and different things where I've shifted out of that, like I've come into like performance and expression just by getting out of my comfort zone, just by doing it. But it shifted from trying to impress to trying to express, and that was how it happened for me. And I also had relationships and stuff that really forced me to use my voice to express. Yeah, it's now one of my strengths. And I also really like to sing. So I went to kirtan classes, and that's what got me into it. And just, it's a beautiful way to raise your vibration. So if you're ever in a bad mood, just sing. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. If any of this resonated, please like this video and subscribe to support the channel, and I will see you in the next video.